So you said, Dean, why don't you support Trump? Here's why. I break my argument up here into three categories. The first is going to be domestic policy. The second category is going to be foreign policy. Then the third policy is going to be, the third category is going to be character. I think that Donald Trump fails on all three fronts. Let's go ahead and start with the third one, which would be character. He has the worst character of any president in American history. It wasn't even 48 hours ago that we saw the largest presidential scandal in American history when we learned that Donald Trump broke the law to illegally hide files that accused him of child rape. Not to mention, a civil court in 2023 determined that he raped a woman. In 2005, he boasted about perving on kids, okay, by saying that he just barged into the dressing rooms of women and girls at Miss Teen USA and Miss USA and look at their naked bodies. Not to mention, I also think that he's a really undeniable misogynist. This is going to be going back to the fact that he's cheated on all three of his wives, one with a porn star, no respect for women or girls. He sexualized his own daughter, said the best thing that could ever happen to a woman is pregnancy, said that he could just grab women by the P word without asking first, or sexualized a 10-year-old girl in the 90s when he said he'd be dating her in 10 years. I also think that he's quite racist, from violating the Civil Rights Act in 1977 to then being sued by the New York State Justice Department for refusing to rent to black people, to calling for the death penalty, for the exonerated Central Park Five, to saying that you could look at immigrants and tell if they're good or bad, to pulling from the Mein Kampf saying that immigrants are poisoning the blood of this country, to depicting Barack and Michelle Obama as apes, monkeys, or gorillas on Truth Social less than a week ago, and not apologizing for it, having members of his administration say there's no issue with it. I also think that he's a narcissistic liar. In his first term alone, he told over 30,000 confirmed lies, and every day we get a new lie. He's willing to contort absolutely anything that happens in this country to his own advantage. Last year, when our economy was in ruin, with decreasing GDP growth, worst jobs report since 2003, most bankruptcies since 2008, he was over here saying that our economy was an A++++. There's it for the character. There's about a billion other things I could say, but I'll try to stay concise for the time being. Moving on to the next category, that would be domestic policy. I think that he's a failure on domestic policy on all fronts. Okay, let's pull from what he's told us in the past. He thinks that it's important for the middle class to be prosperous, for the American economy to exceed and excel, but then when we look at his policies, it looks like it promotes the opposite outcomes. The Big Beautiful Bill, for instance, exploded our national debt by $5 trillion. Most expensive policy ever, by the way. Took healthcare away from 10 million low-income Americans when we already have 51,000 low-income Americans die every year via lack of access to healthcare. Took food stamps away from 3 million low-income Americans by defunding it $156 billion. And if you want to ask yourself here, well, why did he take these social safety nets away from so many? It was to save money so then he could spend $6 trillion on tax cuts that, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, only increase your purchasing power if you make over $51,000 per year, which is more than the average American, disproportionately helping those that make even more, giving 3% back on average to the top 1%. Not to mention his other domestic policy really sucks, ranging from the proposed executive orders to rig the midterms, or the executive orders that have actually been signed into law surrounding the re-identification of citizens as undocumented immigrants in violation and breach of their constitutional rights. And of course, that would be another reason why I think his domestic policy is terrible, because he doesn't care about law and order. He doesn't care about the Constitution. He doesn't care about federal law. Every day he's finding a new way to ignore it. He's infringed on the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 10th, 14th, 22nd Amendment by saying it's illegal to criticize him in the media, by directing his DOJ to find any way to ban gun ownership for trans Americans, to telling ICE to infringe on the 4th and 5th Amendment rights of undocumented immigrants by arresting them with no judicial warrants or deporting them with no due process, to breaking the 10th Amendment by illegally deploying the National Guard in Illinois in the opinion of SCOTUS, to breaking the 14th Amendment with Executive Order number 14160, taking birthright citizenship away from citizens, to threatening the 22nd Amendment by saying maybe he wants to run for a third term, by ignoring the first article of the Constitution, by saying he has the ability to pass voter ID laws even if Congress never gets it done, which he doesn't, or ignoring the second article of the Constitution, including the Supremacy Clause, because he thinks he's above the Constitution, okay, or the threat to nationalize midterms elections, which the second article of the Constitution expressly gives to states, not the federal government. And his foreign policy, third category, also is terrible. It's completely abysmal. He has destroyed our transatlantic partnerships. NATO is going down a drain. He told the military to draft a wartime invasion plan of Greenland, who's a part of NATO, that threatens world security and the cooperation of the NATO alliance. He's very hot and cold with the EU and the UN. Because of that hotness and coldness, we had leaders inside of the EU threaten to impose impose a trade bazooka on America because of the unconstitutional tariffs that we placed on them, alongside the threat of an invasion of Greenland, which is a part of the Danish kingdom. And there's maybe like 10 minutes worth of reasons why I don't support Trump as president. There's about a billion other ones, but I mean, I want to keep it short, so I'll go ahead and cut myself off there.
Got me. I'm speechless. I think his domestic policy is like closing the border is definitely what we should do. We should focus on our country as a whole instead of Israel and all that. Make America more like America first.
He left, by the way. He said something about Israel. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really listening. he said something. I don't know. He left. I mean, he asked me why I didn't support Trump. That was kind of a big mistake. Oh man, and there's so much, dude. There's so many things that I left out there. You know, like Trump calling for the execution of Democrats in Congress. Okay, having his name illegally redacted over 950,000 times from the Epstein files. Okay, you know, being best friends with Jeffrey Epstein, lying about that for 20 years, being exposed by the release of the Epstein files. You know, defying Congress, breaking federal law to not release all the Epstein files. There's like genuinely like a billion reasons I didn't name there.
Hello?
Welcome in, Agent 34. Do you support Trump?
Yes, I do.
How old are you?